Ring ring!
Oh, hey, Bria.
Hey, Kelly, what's up?
Well, today in school, I learned how ACT can change the youth with win-win.
Cool, can't wait to hear more about it.
Thank you for being with us today. My team of Rishab, Bria, Jackie, and I, Kelly, have developed a three-pronged implementation strategy that will help T-Mobile's Signature Cause campaign align more closely with win-win and be able to inspire today's youth. So my team and I dissected each of the strategies within this campaign and noticed that although each initiative is very strong on its own, there's room for improvement. In regards to the first strategy of career readiness, we noticed that there can be some improvement in regards to the public sector. In regards to the second strategy of mobile empowerment, we've noticed that there could be some improvements in regards to the social sector. And finally, for the last strategy, the next generation changemaker, we noticed that this initiative actually hits all of the elements of win-win. Therefore, we would like to introduce another initiative to tie along with the changemaker challenge in order to make scalable impacts. So the big question here today is, how can T-Mobile identify additional opportunities to scale the impacts using win-win? My team and I have devised Strategy ACT, which stands for Advance, Connect, and Transform. For Advance, Jackie will be talking about how we can partner up with Job Corps. For Connect, Bria will be talking about how you can incorporate pre-installed applications into the devices that you'll be handing out to schools. And finally, Rashad will be talking about Transform, which is utilizing your very popular application, T-Mobile Tuesday, in correspondence with the Changemaker Challenge. By using this tri-sector strategy, you'll be able to inspire today's youth and create a brighter future for tomorrow. Now I would like to pass it on to Jackie, who will be talking to you about the first strategy, Advance.
Thank you, Kelly. Your current signature cost already has a great impact and effort on private and social sector. For the private sector, through one-to-one job shadowing, career center programs, as well as retail store tools, it increased not just brand recognition and reputation, it also engaged existing employees, as well as attracting new employees applicants. At the same time, people and students who come in to visit will be our future T-Mobile brand ambassadors. While for the social sector, you're currently working with two youth organizations, which are the After School All-Stars and the Boys and Girls Club of America. These engage the younger generation, giving them a sense of what T-Mobile as a firm is and the phone industry as a whole. However, we observed that there could be room of growth in the public sector. Therefore, today we propose to introduce Job Corps. Job Corps is a program under the Department of Labor. It provides in regional JC centers, it provides vocational and academic training, which prepares individuals for their first jobs. On top of the two existing programs you're currently working with, they focus on students in school and after-school programs. However, Job Corps has three benefits. First being government connections, content, and the relevant target group, especially for 16 to 24-year-old individuals who are not just could be our future employees, but also customers acquired. Therefore, achieving our win-win model applying to the tri-sector approach. For the private sector, we'll be able to promote more brand recognition and reputation through improving turnover rates and customer acquisition. And for the public sector, it could be opening door to other possible government collaborations as well. While for the social sector, we combine the current youth program you're working with other possible relevant government programs, such as an individual in ASAS might grow up and would want to find a job through Job Corps. For impacts, incorporating our strategy would earn an extra revenue of $1.2 million through customer acquisition and employment engagement. At the same time, this strategy will also save you $4.17 million cost of internal recruitment and the cost of advertisement in future hirings. There's few risks that we identified, but one of the strongest and most significant risks that we would like to speak on is being unable to reach government officials. Officials could be hard to coordinate and less responsive compared to other organizations. However, we mitigated by understanding this is a regional, nationwide program. Therefore, there are JC centers regionally. instead of a top-to-bottom approach, we could solve it by a bottom-top way of approaching these officials. So career readiness initiatives could be applied to the public sector as well, achieving the win-win model. Bria, how could we make education more accessible?
That's a great question, Jackie. So, mobility in education already hits two of the sectors that we were talking about earlier, the private and the public. With T-Mobile from Mobility in Education gains brand recognition, brand reputation, public educator connections, as well as increased future customers, as the students we're handing out tablets to may become more accustomed to T-Mobile services and look for them in the future. For the public sector, these Title I schools that you're distributing the tablets to will be receiving increased resources for not only the schools, but also the students, so you can close the homework gap. And decreasing continuing school costs, such as paper. But we found that there would be quite an opportunity for growth by incorporating elements of the social sector into your current mobility and education strategy. So we propose including pre-downloaded applications onto the tablets prior to distributing them to schools. So these pre-downloaded applications incorporate the social sector through educational technology nonprofits such as Khan Academy or Duolingo. And you can also amplify your connections to the public sector through applications such as World of Sense, which is about financial literacy distributed by the National Credit Union Association. What are the benefits of adding these applications to your tablets prior to distribution? Well, you see that for T-Mobile, there's little additional cost in adding these applications, and you gain connections to these educational technology nonprofits that you can use in the future. For the public sector, these schools are receiving resources they wouldn't have for their students otherwise, as well as less cost to them. And for the social sector, these nonprofits are gaining wide access to what their target market is. They're looking to educate students. And it also helps them build a network with not only T-Mobile, but also the public schools they may want to work with in the future. All of these connections mean that should you be expanding this program to, say, public libraries in the future, or creating an educational app platform through the connections with these NGOs, say for schools who wish to control who sees what application and can be more specific, then all of these connections are going to be helpful for you. So moving on, what does this kind of mean by numbers? We calculated that approximately 150,000 students will be affected by this program. So all of these students are going to be students that the social sector is looking to reach out to begin with. And this is 90 Title I schools that you would be that will be getting additional resources such as language for elementary school students who might not reach it standard. Now, there are some risks with this strategy, the most obvious of which would be public school red tape. Oftentimes, educational institutions are very cautious about what they expose their students to, which is a very reasonable assumption. So, to mitigate this risk, you can provide a list of applications you're looking to provide within these tablets, so these schools can choose if they don't want to see it. Of course, this also brings in the app platform we were talking about earlier. Should you develop something where schools can distribute among the network, where you can capitalize on what you know about mobile technology to begin with. So I would now like to pass it off to Rashab, who will talk to you a little bit more about our transform strategy.
Thank you, Bria. Analyzing the Changemaker Challenge from the tri-sector perspective, we observe that already aligns with the win-win model. It benefits you by strengthening your brand reputation, increasing employee engagement, thus increasing employee morale and reducing employee turnover, which results in an increase in sales, as we learned from the Civic 50 report. It benefits the public sector by providing them with social entrepreneurs who are solving the problems of their own communities, some of which are problems that the public sector officials are anyways trying to solve. It serves the social sector by providing the chosen social ventures the funds they might need and the feedback and mentorship from the T-Mobile employees that they might require to succeed and create a widespread impact. However, there is much more room for growth. One of the key opportunities that we have identified for you is to capitalize on the current T-Mobile Tuesday applications platform and massively scale the impact of the Changemaker Challenge. The T-Mobile Tuesday app currently has more than 3.5 million downloads. 37.3% of its users and from the Google Play Store and 42.4% users from the Apple App Store have come from consumer searches itself, which goes to show the widespread appeal and reach of the T-Mobile Tuesday app. And how do we capitalize on that? We suggest that out of the chosen ventures, you feature 3 ventures weekly on the T-Mobile Tuesday platform and incentivize your users to cast votes for their favorite social venture. Now, not only does this raise awareness about the problems that communities are facing nationwide, it also helps the social ventures achieve the marketing and reach the audience that they might require to succeed and create a widespread social impact. We will measure this impact for them by measuring the number of votes that we get and the number of impressions that the application is able to generate through the T-Mobile Tuesday app. Now, this strategy is not only about helping the social ventures reach their audience, but it also helps you collect valuable data about youth interest and the different problems that communities are facing nationwide, which can be used to improve the current efforts of the social ventures and also for you to focus your future social efforts in the right direction. So, how does Transform actually transform the Changemaker Challenge? It creates 3 million plus impressions for the current social ventures, out of which engaging 1 million voters with the social ventures and raising awareness. In addition, it increases employee morale, reduces employee turnover, increases sales, strengthens your brand reputation, helps a social partner Ashoka Youth Ventures reach an even bigger audience, and most important of all, creates a widespread social impact. Now, every strategy comes with a few risks. However, our mitigation strategies clearly outweigh the risks. One of the most significant risks that we identified with the Changemaker Challenge is that the Changemaker Challenge might not be able to attract as many high-quality ventures as it currently plans to do because of the high number of such challenges already existing out there in the market. However, we suggest that you mitigate these risks by starting early, taking the first mover advantage, and reaching out to your current and potential partners to leverage their networks and reach a massive audience. In addition, you market the T-Mobile mentorship, feedback, and the funds they will provide to the chosen social ventures to create a massive appeal and attract a high number of ventures and high-quality ventures. So, Kelly, how do we achieve all these great things?
That's a great question, Rishab. So my team and I have provided you with a 5-year implementation strategy that you can use to make sure the ACT is perfectly integrated within the signature cause campaign that T-Mobile has created. In regards to the first strategy, Advance, you'll continue your partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of America and After School All-Star, but around 2018-2019, you'll begin your partnership with Job Corps, and from then on, you'll bring these individuals into the retail stores and T-Mobile's headquarters in order for them to understand what it's like to work in these type of environments. For the second strategy of Connect, the short-term goal is to acquire all these tablets and to also incorporate the pre-installed applications into the devices that you'll be handing out to the schools. The long-term goal is to push these devices into public libraries and also to create exclusive educational app platforms that T-Mobile can research and develop. The last strategy, there will be a voting section every year, and from the first voting session, you'll begin to collect data and gauge engagement to make sure to know that these social impacts are working. By incorporating this tri-sector strategy, you'll be able to make scalable impacts, change today's youth about how they impact with society, and win-win.
Act now!
Okay, questions?
Thanks so much. So I see a lot of appendices, so you might have one that answers my question, which is that you spoke to cost savings of over $4 million from effective hires through Job Corps. Would love to hear more about how you arrived at that number, if you've got an appendix on it.
Sure. So we analyzed the telecom industry as a whole and reached a few assumptions through a Forbes report, which taught us that the turnover rate in the industry, in the call center industry, is 30 to 40% every year. And Job Corps enables us to hire future employees for the call center. We also analyzed all the call center employees that T-Mobile might require by calculating the average number of calls that a call center employee can answer every day and the number of calls they might get in the total year. That gave us a number for every call center, and applying the turnover rate, we reached a number of employees that we might need to hire every year. Out of the number of employees we need to hire every year, we took a conservative assumption of filling that need with 20% people from the Job Corps program. And from the Forbes report, I can quote that even hiring an $8 employee costs the company at least somewhere between $2,500 to $3,500 of recruitment cost. And we cover those costs by $2,000 of the time of internal recruiter and the advertising and some initial training which will already be provided to the Job Corps program. And applying that number at a conservative assumption of 20% people being hired in the first year, 25% in the second year, and 27% in the third year, we came to a total cost savings of $4.17 million in the span of 3 years.
Well, in a similar vein, can you talk about the costs of your tablet strategy, how T-Mobile is going to cover that cost?
So the cost of the tablet, in the case, you talked about investing 20 to 40 million in tablets. So if we take that number and we use this assumption from online about which tablet we would use, then we can find that investing 20 million in devices at $120 per device means that you're going to have approximately 150,000 in use, which is how we got the previous number for your audience for mobility and education. But the research for the tablet came from the internet, Amazon.
You must have done too good a job. How many current T-Mobile employees will be involved in your proposal, and will that result in a loss of revenue, a loss of talent within the company itself? If you're going to get good people, what will be the effect of their loss in the workplace as they go to this?
Excellent question. So we estimated and studied from the case that for every tour that we conduct, we would require one manager and 2 employees engaged in a 3-hour tour. You currently plan to have 3 tours every year for every retail store from the case, and that's the employee cost per tour, which is $150. From the Civic 50 report, we learned that engaging employees in social programs increases their morale and results in an increase in sales because of increased efficiency. So to address the question of loss of talent and loss of revenue, this is actually increasing their input into the sales of the T-Mobile workforce and revenue, because they feel more engaged and belong to the company because they're being engaged in community service. In addition, these tours are for the Job Corps program, and that's the tour that engages the most number of employees. We are also attracting future T-Mobile customers, because the people that come, the students or youth that come through the Job Corps program would also learn about the benefits that they can get from the T-Mobile company and maybe churn. So we took a churn rate of 1.5%, and that's how we achieved our number of $1.2 million in gain in revenue. So through the Job Corps program, even though it might cost us some money to engage those employees and some time of theirs, we generate much more revenue and also improve their belongingness, reduce turnover rate, improve their morale and input for the company.
It's also worth mentioning that in the case you mentioned that a lot of these tours would be occurring in low volume and low time hours, such as in the afternoon where you don't have too many customers. So you would have idle time anyway. That would also decrease these costs despite our assumptions.
What do you see as the biggest challenge you're trying to solve? You only get one, right?
Oh.
And then which of your initiatives are you going to pick in order to solve what you see as the biggest challenge?
Is this biggest challenge as in socially around like our nation, or like biggest challenge with our strategy?
Biggest challenge socially that you're trying to solve?
I would say that one of the problems that we want to solve is education in youth. There are locations around the world that aren't, or schools around the world that's very difficult for students to get the educations that they want, or like not the type of education that is up to par with a lot of other students around the world. So the strategy that I would propose that we would use to solve this problem would possibly be the Job Corps one, because we do actually work with more than just Job Corps. We work with After School All-Star and Boys and Girls Club of America. So being able to bring these students into like the workforce and make them understand what it's like to like work in a job will possibly motivate them to want to strive for better education and for them to have a goal in mind in the future.
Okay, if there are no more questions, let's give a round of applause to the... So the second place team from the University of Southern California, the Marshall School of Business.